Hello.
Hello, everybody. Live from New York.
And joining us this week, we've got two very interesting guests, two spicy meme lords. We've got Todd and Reid from Doing Things Media. Guys, thanks for being here this week.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so before we dive into what Doing Things Media is, I'd love to get a little bit of the backstory about how this, business came to fruition. So Reid, can you just give us the 411 on how things kind of got up and running with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started a meme page called Shithead Steve about that's how every good story starts.
Yeah, right.
In my parents' basement, actually, in 2014. I started it as kind of like a joke, thinking like I can just use this as an outlet to like mess with my friends. That a lot of my friends didn't know that it was me in the beginning, and so I was just reposting funny stuff. But I saw people in the space like Fuck Jerry and Fat Jewish. They had like 100,000 followers each at the time, and I thought that was insane. And I was like, I want 100,000 followers, as a joke. And I started it, and I started making some original content, and that really started like growing the channel a lot quicker than I thought. And fast forward, like 10 or 11 months later, I had 1 million followers. So like in that time period, pretty much all that happened was I had the page, I was reposting memes, then I started creating memes, and when I started creating them and having like my watermark on there, and it was going viral, a lot, like every day. That's when it started to like really grow fast. And I met my co-founder of Doing Things, Derek. He had a page called Champagne Emojis, which was memes. We met in the Instagram DMs and made content together. We started a meme chat called the Meme Illuminati. And we invited people like John Mayer into the chat, and we didn't think he would respond, and he did like really quickly. And we were like, whoa. And he started like making memes with us, and we just make like a ton of really good stuff. John Mayer can really make good memes. But
really, can you cite any of his works of arts?
I think he'd prefer that it's anonymous. Not that it's like anything bad, but it's just like ridiculous stuff. And it was a long time ago, so I'd have to like dig it up. But yeah, so Derek and me were making memes together a lot, and he started a page called Drunk People Doing Things, which is now known as No Chaser. And I was like, this guy is hilarious. We've been working together for a year. And then I hit him up and I was like, hey, let's figure something out. We ended up partnering up. So I had Shithead Steve, Trash Can Paul, and he had Drunk People Doing Things at the time. And so we had those combined. It was like a few million followers at the time, and that was in 2017. And then from then until now, we had acquired some pages and built some other ones, and now we have 20 different channels. We have an original show called All Gas No Breaks now, and have around 55 million combined followers today. So just a lot. There's just a lot of really funny people at our company, and we just teamed up basically to just create content every day. And that's kind of how it started. And then Todd came on board last year as president. Mm-hmm. And yeah, things are fun right now.
So that's how you start a meme empire, is to get John Mayer in a DM chat. That's a good key insight. And to anybody out there that's thinking about doing something similar, but that's super interesting. And I know we're going to get into a lot of the different brand offerings and kind of how the company has grown. But I am just curious, like, for everybody out there, like, what makes a good meme? Like, how does this even start? Like, are you part of the meme economy on Reddit, like posting stuff, or like is this all original and it's just like test and learn as it goes?
Scott, the meme economy is below him. He's part of the meme Illuminati. So I'm even scared about having this conversation. I don't want any infiltration.
We control the memes. No, so yeah, like it just like it's a gut feeling when like we have like 15 different people in a chat on our creative team that are just like pumping out just hilarious ideas all day long. Mm-hmm. But like in the beginning, like how I knew was just basically in like the first few minutes of any time I post something that I've made or I've reposted, look at the engagement, and within literally like 2 or 3 minutes, you're doing math. You're like, okay, it has 3,000 likes in 2 minutes. That's a banger, is what we call it. And so, yeah, and it's just like kind of like reverse engineered how I see, like how I just like know what works now after just trial and error over and over. Making jokes that didn't work and then making jokes that really did work, and there's a lot of common themes. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's definitely like, okay, did this make me laugh? Then second step is, if it did, let's post it. If the engagement's really good, it's really like resonating.
No, that's great insight. And so, I mean, I'm from there. I mean, like, so then now this has gone from like, a small little thing that was in your, in your basement to a full blown company. And that's why you brought on Todd, and it's like there are ways brands can actually get involved. So how is the strategy for brands and advertisers to get involved with these like viral sensations and really like this digital culture that is being created, across Instagram, Twitter, all these places where your accounts are currently, producing content? Like, what's the way in?
Yeah, why don't I chime in on that, Scott? And as Reid said, there's a bunch of really, really funny people in the company. You're about to speak to the one who's not that funny. I'll talk to you about how we work with brands and have the funny people get involved in that in the creative. And we actually, I'll walk through. Ryan has a couple of pieces of content here, but we're going to walk through a couple of examples because I think that most people think, when they think about brands and memes, there's the brands that are naturally funny, or that would lean toward humor, or might be a little bit more edgy, which are very natural ones to talk about. So we'll walk through a couple of examples of how that works. But then there's the brands that are really not that naturally funny, and are not as relevant in the cultural conversations. And to us, those are the real fun, challenging ones for how we make them fun and engaging. And put it, as Reid said, we have this team of about 15 creators, and putting that in front of them and seeing their ideas of what makes them laugh for a brand that is not necessarily funny. And by the way, during a time frame that is not very funny at all, and how we keep people laughing during good times and bad.
Yeah.
So why don't
absolutely.
Right, would it be helpful if we started?
There's some slides, right? Let's see some slides. So while Ryan's putting that up, I mean, I'd be curious just to kind of quickly talk about like what were some of the trends, in the realm of memes that you were seeing over these past 6 months. Like were people really looking for something like an outlet to be, humorous and laugh about? Like was there more traction now that people were essentially like at home and you were seeing maybe higher engagement rates? Like, I'm just kind of curious to see what the overall is like insights you guys had across your accounts as, this quarantine kicked in over these past 6 months.
Yeah, we saw engagement rates, continuing to increase, right? We had people, we definitely have their attentions. A lot of people are staring at their phone. But what we also found is that people are looking to laugh, right? And we had a lot of look in the mirror moments for what type of content should we be producing? Should we make any changes? And what we realized is people have chosen our brands, to put them in their feed, to follow our brands because we do make them laugh. So we've been just thinking long and hard about how we make everything relevant, right? So when COVID first hit, right, nobody knew really how to communicate, but we knew there were common elements that we can all smile about and share with each other and bond over those things. So it's really about creating that content about what everyone is really thinking, so that when it stops and hits your feed, you're going to say, oh my God, that just totally resonated with me. And I have my friends in my DM group that I'm going to send this to them because I know it's going to totally resonate with them. So we saw all those numbers continuing to increase.
That's great. And so I've got some beautiful slide work up in front of me, right past the title slide here. You want to take us through a little bit?
Yes. Am I looking at that, or am I trying to remember what they were?
I mean, if you pull it up on the Twitch channel, you can look at it. Otherwise,
okay, all good. I'll go on.
Oh boy, it says here. I'll kick you off. You're right. All right. It says so. Slide number 1 there. So who do you follow on Instagram? I can tell you who I follow: Shithead Steve, Trash Can Paul, Middle Class Fancy.
What else? Let's play this out, Scott. Give us like categories like that you follow. So obviously follow memes.
So the ones core to my heart are the crossovers between Warzone memes and Lord of the Rings. That is the apex of my humor. I think that stuff is absolutely incredible.
Sample group of one.
And then from there it kind of, like spars down. But the content that is on, I mean, obviously Friday Beers, that's been an absolute wildfire for like the past, 8 months. That's been incredible. But I mean, what truly my apex of meme culture and what makes me laugh is when you can blend video games with Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. I mean, that is just, that really hits home for me. I think that's some of the best content out there.
So let's play this out. If we, Scott, were to look at your last 10 DMs, how many of those were memes?
Oh, all of them. I don't communicate in text. It's all imagery.
And Ryan, how about you?
See, the reason that we wanted to get you guys on here is that I'm not a big social guy, so I'm here for the memication. I need that education. I need to know what accounts I should be going to. I am not a certified shit poster yet, but I'm hoping to be there.
At the end of this, you will be.
Exactly. So I mean, Scott, you are totally nailing those points. I mean, I think the thing is, no matter what social channel you're in, the point is that you as an individual, everyone as an individual is curating it, right? And you're going to have, there's clearly some memes that you like to follow there. Ryan, by the end of this, we'll have some that you like to follow, but you have your friends that are in there as well. You may have some work friends that are in there, right? And you may have a DM group with them. With Instagram in particular, you may have some family, you may not. You might leave that more for Facebook, right? And there's some influencers and some celebrities. And the point is, you're custom curating the experience that you want. But when you actually look at DMs, and the reason I asked you this, Scott, and there's a slide, Ryan, there that talks about how much memes are being shared. But when you look at it in Instagram in particular and what's being DM'd, memes are being DM'd more than anything. And Scott, you're our perfect case study of that. As you said, you're not even texting. This is the way you communicate. And I think the real interesting part is why, right? Why we all know it's happening, but why is it happening? And this goes back to just like the basic elements of what is a meme, right? It is in its most simple form. It's from, you have brands that you've asked to follow, right? Whether it's a Star Wars related or Shithead Steve, that you're expecting a certain amount of content when you're going through your feed and you hit that brand. There's a line of text that is there just to grab you. And then there's the image to tie that back together with the text. And the whole goal is that it is something that will resonate with you. You follow those brands because you're expecting them to send something that's going to resonate with you. And then if it really resonates, you engage with it, right? You may like it, you may share it with your friends, you may share it with a DM group. Our whole goal is to get you to engage with that content. But I think that is really the key element, is that this is social ammunition, right? This is how people are communicating with each other today, even more than texting in some aspects, because it allows you to visually and graphically display something that that resonates and give it to the exact group of people that you think it would resonate with. And that's kind of like the core of the business. And and what I love about what Reid and Derek did in creating this business and doing things media is that they're not from the media business, right? Reid was in his parents' basement and created this because he was funny and he liked this content. And Derek, similarly, he was living out on the West Coast. Didn't come from this business. It's not like I've spent a long time in this business. What I love is all of the creators in this meme ecosystem for the most part, they don't come from media. They are people who have either done it as a side gig, they've done it because it's an area they're really interested in, or it's something that they just dove deep into without knowing the space. And that's the beauty of it, is that they could just be so organically funny. They have this sense of what is going to hit and what is going to relate to people. And then all of a sudden, Reid and Derek, on their own, had over 50 million followers because they were being funny, and they created this platform where they could bring it to other content categories. And like one of the content, like Scott's, we talk about gaming. Like one of them is gamers doing things, right? Where the content that Reid and the creative team are creating for gamers doing things, very different than Shithead Steve, and very different than Doggos doing things for dog lovers, but dog lovers who are looking for it done in a very funny way. So that's the idea behind all of that. And I think that to go back to the original question, that's really where the kind of the magic comes in for how we do this for brand marketers, and how do we integrate them into the conversation.
Right.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, so I was just kind of like curious, just kind of like thinking about it. So we have all these different categories, and I think one of the things we're interested in is when the team is creating this content. Is it all creative? Are you guys licensing content? Can you work with a brand and memeify some of their content? Like how does it all come together? Because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to hear, from Reid, it's like when the creative team is all working together on like a brand project, like where does this creative come from? Is it all original? Is it, plussed up brand content? Is it licensed? Like how does all that work?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the brand is wanting. Like if they already have assets they've created, we can take those and memeify them. There's also the route where it's like we have nothing and we need an idea, and we just come up with an entire campaign, and then we can create our own real life memes. Like for example, with Anheuser, with Bud Light, we took a cooler, filled, or actually it wasn't a cooler, it was a crock pot, filled it with ice and Bud Light, and it was like, I got my brother a crock pot, and this is what he uses it, or like this is what he uses it for. So like that was like an example, like we had nothing to work off of. We just took Bud Light and made it into a meme. And then we also, there's stock photos out there that are really funny and really popular. We'll license images. We built a video submission system for all of our brands. So people are sending funny videos, their dog, falling off the couch or whatever it is. And they're transferring the rights over to us. We're shouting them out and growing their audience. So that's like another route. We use our video content. Todd, am I missing anything? I think that's pretty much.
Well, I can queue up. Why don't you just talk a little bit about why branded content works so well with Doing Things Media?
Yeah. So I think the main reason it works so well is our creative team is like mostly people that are running pages, if not all of them. So it doesn't sound like it's in a different voice all of a sudden when we have an ad come in. It's like we're all collaborating. The people that are running pages, the brand managers and the creators of these pages are working together with us and the overall creative team to make content that fits perfectly into the feed on each brand. So I think that's the core of why it works. We all get it. And it's not a different team doing the brand work. It's the same creative editorial team.
Interesting. So the best way to get a job at Doing Things Media is to create a viral meme page and say, that's pretty much your application. It's like, this is what I can do. Let's collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah, we wouldn't go on LinkedIn and look for someone to help run our creative. I think it's definitely like the memers out there and just funny people. If it makes us laugh.
I'll give you two examples of people on our team. One of them is Lee Ayers, who Lee started a page called Middle Class Fancy, which you guys might be familiar with. And Reid and Derek, being in the community, newly loved the brand, loved where he was going with it, but also loved the league. So we ended up, before my time, but Reid and Derek ended up acquiring Middle Class Fancy. But one of the great parts is having Middle Class Fancy, but the other great part is having Lee on the team and in these brainstorms, contributing to everything that we're doing. Similarly with John Truly, who runs Doggos Doing Things and Cats Doing Things, and is just absolutely hysterical and became part of the team. So yes, it is having having that great, very funny, distinct voice, but also that talent where they become part of this crew.
Right. And I think I got one more question to kind of build on that. So like you've amassed this group of creators and memers and all these things, and it's like, so when you are like working with like a brand or like kind of come up with your own content, like how long does it take to make one of these things? Like, I mean, is it 24 hours? Is it like 3 minutes? Could it be like a month to like really like crack the code? Like how long does it take to make a successful post?
Are you asking editorially or branded? I mean, it's kind of the same answer.
I would say both. I guess I'm asking two questions, but I guess it could be the same answer.
Yeah. I would say editorial, it just kind of like comes to you. Like,
okay.
You can't, it's not a science, it's more of an art. The branded content, it's kind of the same thing, but we work really quickly compared to, someone who has to, like, we aren't having to do like a huge set somewhere, where we're shooting. Right. We can literally, like, the more scrappy it looks in terms of like, oh, I just shot this on my iPhone, that looks like, organic content that someone would post. Whether it's like a Snapchat or an Instagram story, it looks like it's real and authentic. So we're quick for sure. I'd say depends on the idea, but quick.
Yeah, and I think to build off that, the two basic ways, right, are we're coming up with a custom meme, right, and that's where we can move really, really fast. And what happens is, like, brands will give us guidelines, right? What they're trying to accomplish, target audience. They give us all the specs that they're looking for. Then we go into our Slack channel with the creative team, and the ideas just start flying around. We make sure that we're only using images where we own all the rights, right? And to Reid's point, we don't have to go and shoot a video. Everyone just can do this from home. We've been virtual. We continue to be virtual. We turn that around really quickly. And then we send back to the agency or to the client, here was your idea. Here's 10, 15 pieces of creative that we came up with, right? We send it in a Google Doc, and they give us feedback. And usually what happens is some of them are like, are right on. Some of them, they say, hey, can you change the headline here? Or maybe the image doesn't get across the right message. Can we change that? And some of them are just like way out there, which you won't use, but you'll laugh. You'll end up laughing. See, the second way we do it, and I think we have a couple of examples, and we actually did some great work with the team in LA with Hulu, is where you guys provide us assets that you own or that your clients own, and then we find the most memeable moments in those assets. So a good example, Ryan, I think there's a slide in there for Hulu, and the show Solar Opposites. So Solar Opposites, I think, came out in June. And what we did there was we were able to get 1 or 2 episodes early, before it came out. And then the creative team they went through frame by frame every second of the show, watched it over and over again, and they pulled out what they thought were the most memeable moments. And then what they did is they literally just took a screen grab from that memeable moment, and then they thought about the target demographic and our brands and said, okay, what would be really relevant here? So we listed a few on that slide there. They ran on a lot of pages. But so, for example, on Doggos Doing Things, right? And remember, the user has asked to follow Doggos Doing Things, right? They have not asked to follow Solar Opposites or Hulu, although we can help them increase that. So it has to be dog related. So the headline was dog related. The image was dog related. And then in the first comment, there was the call to action, which was to tune in and to help increase the followers for one of the characters in the show. And the same, so we do the same thing. I think there's another example on that slide from No Chaser, right? And No Chaser is very much about being in the party and living life to the fullest, right? So we pulled a shot from Solar Opposites that totally resonated with that, did a headline that totally resonated with that, and then again the call to action in the first comment. And you can see on those screen grabs, I can't see, but hopefully you guys can see.
Oh, I can. You guys did a good job. They're funny.
But what's really neat, and this is just like what's public, the public information. When we took that screenshot, look at the amount of likes on that. I don't know what it says, but probably like 20, 30, 40, 50,000 likes on each of those posts, and they continue to accumulate likes. What I think is really interesting, and one of the things that excited me about joining Reid and Derek on the team, is we live in a world where users, audiences are trying to avoid advertising, right? Browsers have ad blockers. As agencies, you're working with viewability standards. Getting pre-roll, in your content is not always the best user experience. Using Hulu as an example, as an advertiser with us, I personally pay more to get the Hulu without ads. And here we put together this content here where it's not only that it's not that they don't like it, they really like it. You're seeing tens of thousands of likes, and people are sharing these. And go back to that DM point. People are DMing these to their friends, right? So this is, in essence, branded content that people really, really genuinely like and are sharing with their friends because it totally resonates with them.
Yeah, so you're talking about people sharing memes as part of their DM conversations, and we have a question here in chat that kind of alludes to that. Richard Yao, IPG, wants to know, what impact does the ongoing shift from public social media channels to dark social, private Facebook groups, and messaging apps have on the spread of memes? Does it make it harder to track and analyze?
So we caught part of.
Yeah, here let me rephrase that one. Sorry, Ron, you kind of broke up a little bit. So the question was, what impact does the ongoing shift from public social media channels to dark social channels, i.e. private Facebook groups and or messaging apps, have on the spread of memes? Does it make it harder to track and analyze? Do you see it go viral quicker? Guys have any insights into that?
I think we can see how many times people are DMing the post to each other, and I think that on Instagram, people are more likely to share it by DM rather than copy the link and share it. But I mean, the numbers we're seeing from the shares are pretty insane. So I don't think it's affecting that.
I would say, do you value the DM share at like a higher rate of perceived value than like a like or a comment?
I think it's a little bit different, but it definitely, we first look at likes and comments. Comments less so nowadays, now that most people are DMing. So I think DMs and comments are kind of like, DMs are the new comments, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And DMs are really important because how many times, everything we do is how much, we want it to get shared. That's, at the end of the day, we want our posts shared as much as possible. So it's definitely really important.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So it seems like essentially the more people move to private Facebook groups and Instagram groups and all these messaging apps, that's essentially better for your content and the business. Because that is the whole goal. Like the goal essentially is to get it shared. So that's pretty good. You kind of playing to the trend of people going away from public social, quote unquote.
Yeah, just to add to that, we see our branded content. Obviously our editorial's making it to the top of Reddit a lot, but our branded content is making it to the very top of Reddit a lot of times. So, we'll do a campaign with a brand and we tell them what they're going to get on Instagram. But everything on top of that's just like gravy, you know what I mean? In terms of it's going everywhere. So it's cool to see for sure. And I think that just goes to the point that it's speeding it up. I think people are the easier it is to share stuff, the better it is for us.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned Instagram, and obviously a lot of your accounts right now have big followings on Instagram. Are you looking at other social platforms to like diversify or build other communities around them? So like Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, like have you looked at these other platforms as like things to expand the media empire into? Are you already there? How's that working?
Yeah, so we have over 30 something million on Instagram, and then we have like over 6 million on TikTok, over 1 million on YouTube, mainly with All Gas No Breaks, our original show. We're on Patreon pretty big time on All Gas. We have like almost 15,000 paying monthly patrons, so that's really cool. And then Discord as well for gamers doing things, and Twitch. So I think Instagram's obviously like our home base, but we're constantly looking at how to diversify in terms of platforms.
The other part I would add to that is our brands were for the most part born on Instagram, and then they go out to the other social channels. But as they become just more part of just mainstream life, we're seeing them take on other lives. So, for example, Animals Doing Things, which Reid started as an Instagram page, is also now a TV show that we do as a collab with Howie Mandel. It's called Howie Mandel's Animals Doing Things, and had its second season on Nat Geo Wild, which is really exciting. And then Doggo's Doing Things. We just came out last week with our first book, and it's the book is called Doggo's Doing Things. And for All Gas No Breaks, we are in a production deal to hopefully turn that into a TV show, and it's doing very, very well on Patreon as a subscription service in addition to Instagram and YouTube. So.
And so, I mean, I want to quickly just touch on All Gas No Breaks, because I think that's one thing that we've mentioned a few times now, but maybe people might not be familiar with that. Like, what exactly is All Gas No Breaks?
Yeah.
Because I love it, but tell me more.
It is gonzo journalism at its finest. Andrew Callahan, the host, he hit me up about a year and a half ago. He was like, and I was already a fan of his interviews from New Orleans. He used to do.
Okay.
Basically drunk people on Bourbon Street, just telling their life story, and that was incredible. And when he hit me up, I was like, yes, let's do this. What do you need? And he's like, I need an RV. We bought him an RV. He has a team now traveling around the country in that RV. They're about to move to LA for home base. They've been on the road for about a year in an RV. Wow. And they're going around interviewing some crazy people, just really interesting people. He was recently at the Portland protests, which is actually a really powerful video. We just posted on YouTube yesterday. Mm-hmm. He's also in Minneapolis when there was the protest there. So it's kind of like it's a mix of comedy, current events, and it's just awesome interviews, like really fun to watch. It's definitely a really exciting thing going on right now.
And how difficult is it for you guys to kind of transport your voice from memes into these other kinds of content, whether it be long form video, short form video, like how difficult or is it really more about just having the right creators on board?
It's definitely just the right creators. Like I started with memes, but I love being involved in these original shows. Like we have a cartoon we're working on. Derek's mostly working on that. It's incredible. It's going to be really funny. It's just, we're comedy writers at a base level. We started with very short, things we're writing on these pictures. But I think it's just like if you understand comedy and you know how to write comedy, even if it's only 5 words on a picture, you know how to do it in a way that is portrayed and it's like delivered in the right way from comedy perspective. So it's been really interesting. It's been a challenge that I'm like up for. I'm excited about it. And so is Derek.
Yeah, that's really, really, really interesting. And congrats on that, everybody. I'm a big fan of all the stuff that you guys have going on. So I'm sure it's going to be good, especially as a fan of Rick and Morty. I imagine it'll be in the same vein of that in some way, shape, or form. But as we start to kind of like think about, getting brands involved, so do they paid promotion for this? Is it like sponsored? Is it all organic promotion? Like how do the posts get amplified when you are working with a brand?
So the way we do it is we are posting organically, right? So this has to be very engaging with our audience. We do, of course, all of the disclosures that it is an ad and who the ad is coming from. But we are posting it organically. We are not boosting it. And the way that we transact, it's in CPMs, right? So we'll guarantee a certain amount of impressions. We agree upon a CPM, and then we deliver on those impressions at that CPM. Where it kind of really starts resonating are when we get into all of the engagement metrics and how we over deliver on the impressions, because it is being shared so much, because people are engaging with it with it at such a great rate. And then we also, with partners, we'll do brand studies as well, right? We will show how we can impact things at the top of the funnel and increasing awareness and preference, and all the way down to to the bottom of the funnel, driving purchase intent and actually driving transactions. And that's been a really interesting part for us and for me in particular, is that another aspect of our business is we have a pretty big e-commerce business where we're selling our own products directly to our consumers. And we learn so much about the type of content that you can create that will drive someone right to a store, what will drive them to conversion, what will make them come back. And we experiment on ourselves, and we apply those learnings to our brand partners when we work with them as well.
So you mentioned 3 magic letters for our media team, CPM. In terms of pricing, structure, how does it work? Is it on an account by account basis? Is it different based on like how many followers you guys have across the portfolio? Just give us a little bit more insight on a brand coming to work with you the first time.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I mean it's based on the overall impressions, and it's not that we are charging a different CPM for one of our pages versus another one of our pages. We end up blending that all together. Depending upon the size of the buy, we work together to figure out what that CPM is.
And are there any minimums to get started?
We say our minimum is $50,000, but we break our own rules every now and then.
So a flexible 50K, everybody. That's good to know. And then I guess we kind of already talked about this a little bit, but like metrics, like there are brand studies, like there are obviously like the impressions, the engagement rates, the comments, all of that. So you guys kind of have the full gamut on measurement, which is pretty solid. I was just going to ask a question about measurement, but I had a brain blast. We literally already covered all of that, so no need to go into that one.
So let me jump in here, Scott. I'll bring in a question from chat here. Legalized Ranch wants to know any advice for an up-and-coming ship poster.
Definitely just do whatever makes you laugh, as long as it's not offensive or gonna rub anyone the wrong way. I definitely just, if you're looking to shit post, as he said, from a fellow former shit poster, you can just basically just whatever makes you laugh, post it and be as dumb as possible, and I think it'll resonate with someone.
That's meant. And so then, Reid, are you no longer posting daily on the account? Have you given the reins to another person in the Meme Illuminati group here?
Yep. Justin is our brand manager for a few of our brands.
Okay.
Shit being one of them. I'm the CEO. I'm just like running the business, and just like also like a little backstory. Like I've had other businesses in the past, so I was like really excited about this as a business, and then I was actually pretty relieved the day that I didn't have to create memes all day long. I loved it for 4 years, but a little burnt out. But I'm still involved creatively for sure.
Hey, no matter, at some point, matter what you do, if you do it every day long enough, you're going to need a break for at least a little bit. Whether that's, posting memes, streaming on Twitch every single day for 8 hours a day. Everybody needs a break once in a while. So I'm glad you're.
I'll tell you what's amazing though is for me not being the creative guy to watch the creative team at work, and and there are these text chains, there's the Slack channels, and just watching the back and forth how they make each other laugh, right? And it's really interesting because if you think about brainstorms, in agencies or in publishers, right? It's often either you're in a room or you're on a Zoom call together. This is in the Slack channel, one meme after another, and they're all playing off of each other. And it's just, it's absolutely amazing to watch how fast it happens. And because it's something that they just can create on their phone, it happens at like all hours of the day and the weekend, just because it's fun. This is how they're having fun playing off each other.
Yeah. And, when you're like talking to brands, I think this is something that, is like a key point about this. Like this locks you into that internet culture, right? That digital culture that forms online and kind of grows outward to the different parts of, like the larger media landscape. So I assume at some point some of these things are reaching like Good Morning America and like these larger broadcast, mainstream media channels out there. And we always like these type of solutions, like doing things media, like Reddit, like Imager, because it puts a brand in at the bottom level of what this kind of internet culture conversation is, and allows you to be a part of it and kind of, be in a sense, not like control the narrative, but, influence the narrative of how things are representative. And I think it's great, especially from like your perspective, it's just all organic posting. It's a real great way to really tie a brand into, again, it's like that culture that is happening digitally, online, and in these DM groups. I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun, and I think if we can go to one slide, I think what would be interesting is to look at some of the brands that you might not naturally think are funny and participating in this, and we sent along two slides to give a couple of examples. One of them is T-Mobile. So Brian, if you have that one, but I think this is a really interesting one, because here is a product that is incredibly well known, is getting your wireless service is not naturally a funny thing. It's just something that we all have to do, and they have two really big competitors out there. And if you look at any of the carriers, they're all doing a ton of advertising, obviously, on TV, through programmatic, through social, through the platforms. It's all over the place, and you can use so much data and targeting to find that right person at that right time. But how do you actually connect with them? So here's an example of a campaign that we ran with them, where one of the features that they have is blocking scam calls. So once we got they want to promote blocking scam calls, we go into the Slack channel with the creatives, right? How do we actually make that funny and resonate with our audience, but also communicate their message? And we ran a bunch of memes, but you see a few examples on the page there. And again, think about you're the user. You're on Instagram in this case, and you're going through your feed. There's your friends. There's an ad that you ignored. Oh, there's Shithead Steve. There's Middle Class Fancy. I'm expecting something funny. There's the headline that is the totally relatable, funny element of a scam call that we've all gotten or we've all heard of, right? With the stock photo imagery that our brands are known for, that memes are known for, whether it's using Rand or using the classic office worker, right? Where this is, and you can see in that headline and in the image, there's no message of T-Mobile there, right? This is content from Shithead Steve that is something Shithead Steve would produce anyway, right? Whether or not there was a partner with it. But then you get the call to action in that first comment, right? Where you're actually communicating the benefit and that there's a solution coming from the advertiser. So, and again, I don't know what the numbers are on there, but you can see there's 10, 20, 30, 40,000 likes when we took that. Yep. And again, we're not showing the shares and the saves and and all of the other engagement metrics that we would have there. But this is a way where we made them part of the conversation, right? Someone on Shithead Steve sees this and laughs, reads through it, and gets the message across. And I think that's a great example of a brand that is not always about humor and how we found a way to make it humorous. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that was great. And I think it goes back to your point, Reid was saying of like making it for the channel, right? Because we've talked about this a few times, is how when you're on Instagram or even like Snapchat, TikTok, like sometimes those overly produced ads or videos, it like disrupts the experience. Like the user is kind of like taken aback. It's like rigid. It kind of breaks what they're used to, because what they're used to is selfie camera, rear facing camera videos on the platform, taking an image. It's blurry, whatever it might be. It's funny. We actually had somebody on our podcast this week who's a game streamer. He was saying the same thing. He's like, I'm having trouble on TikTok because my videos are too high quality. Like it's like a 4K camera. So he's like, I had to downgrade to like my phone camera to make it more authentic to the platform. And I think that's something, creatively, when brands are thinking about activating across this platform, is really building your creative for that environment. I think it makes all the difference when it comes to how effective a post can be.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be authentic. It has to be authentic to why someone is following that brand, right? Why is someone following Middle Class Fancy or No Chaser? It has to be authentic to that, but getting the advertiser's message across.
And that's why I think that Doing Things Media Solution works so well, because in this, meme savvy audience that we've built across these social channels, people are able to spot ads and spot BS like from a mile away. If something's just got a logo on it, they'll call it out. The brand won't be able to build equity across that channel. So, actually leveraging these accounts to say things in their authentic tone, I think goes a long way to actually lending some legitimacy to these advertisers coming to these channels.
Yeah.
One other example that I had there is, if you go to the next slide there's one on Tax Act.
I love this one.
And yeah, I mean, this is a website to do your taxes. This is not funny, right? And nobody likes doing their taxes. But I think this was a really interesting example for a few reasons. First, we were working on this campaign with them when we thought taxes were due on April 15th, right? And this was going to be a campaign that was more of a last minute get your taxes done campaign. And we started working on the creative, and we had a couple of different creative themes. And then right as we launched it, and of course the world was falling apart at this point, the tax date got moved to July 15th. Right? So we were in the midst of going through that process. But what we found, so the way we started the campaign was they provided us with a lot of really funny discounts. Like deductions that you can have, and we were able to create some fun creative, which you're not looking at, about how funny these deductions are. But what happened was, then we had a little bit more time, and we started seeing that we were getting the highest engagement on creative where the punchline of it was, after you get your tax refund, here is a funny, frivolous way to go spend that refund. And it was totally resonating, and mind you, resonating during April, and when there was a lot going on in the world. But the ones that were resonating the most were where we were using the characters from our pages. So I think on the left-hand side, there's the Middle Class Fancy one, which we often will use the guy in the tuxedo, and we will often, those of you who don't know Middle Class Fancy, it is just making fun of middle America. It's making fun of ourselves, and I'm the perfect example of it. But you're making fun of getting the meat and cheese board, right? And that you're going to go to that
charcuterie.
Who doesn't love a nice charcuterie?
Thank you. Exactly. That is Middle Class Fancy speak, and there's 2 million people who follow that brand who totally get that. But that would not work on the other brands. I think we have a neat dad example in there, right? Which is, it's making fun of the dad and, totally plays in and works on that brand. And we did a bunch of these. But that whole idea of that frivolous, funny spend that's going to resonate with the people who follow those brands for those reasons, but ultimately, and in the comment, is driving you to TaxAct to get started on your taxes, right? And actually giving them a personality around this and a differentiator around this. So again, that was one where we went in and we're like, all right, this is not naturally funny, but we can actually make it really relevant and funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some great examples. Taxes. So pretty much if any brand that's looking to kind of get into, ideally like this like culture, it's like there are ways in which you can get in. You just have to kind of like work through that. And so we've hit the 10-minute mark here on the stream. We have about 10 minutes left, and so I want to transition into like the final 4 questions, we call it. Pretty much what they are the 4 questions we get asked every time that we go in and talk to our media teams and our clients about different partners and solutions. And so it's kind of a rapid fire. I'll list them in order. Reid or Todd, feel free to take these questions. But the 4 questions are, again, what are the minimum costs to get involved with Doing Things Media? 2, what is your size? So scale, reach. 3, what is the lead time? So how fast to turn around a campaign? And then 4, why Doing Things Media versus another competitor in the space?
Cool. I'll start with it. I think we covered a few of them. So yeah, minimum is 50. That said, we will work at a lower amount to get a test because we are confident that once we get that test going, the bigger buy is going to come afterward because you're going to see the results on that. So that's number 1. Number 2 was timing, how long it takes to turn around. Maybe that was number 3. But number 2, timing. We move really fast. It's all about how quickly you guys will approve the creative that we send back to you. So we have advertisers that we have an ongoing relationship with where we're kind of in a good rhythm where we could turn on in 24 hours. They'll say, hey, we have a promotion that's going live on Friday. We know what they want to do. We'll send it to them. They'll give us a couple of tweaks back and forth. We'll get it going the next day. For working with a first-time advertiser, we ideally would like a week, but we can move much faster. Again, we go into our Slack channel, and we get a ton of ideas there, and it's as simple as we'll come back to you with the creative ideas. We'll come back to you with a media plan of the pages that we think make the most sense and why, and then we'll hand that over to you right away. And once you give us the go-ahead, we can turn on the creative right away. What was question 3?
Scale. So size.
So yeah, absolutely. So we have about 55 million followers across all of our pages. That said, and I think this is also one of the really cool things about just like the meme space is there's a lot of other pages out there that we do not own, but because Reid and Derek, were the meme Illuminati and kind of like grew up in the business with so many of these people, we have a much larger group of partner sites that we can go to and bring into a program for an advertiser. And they're usually a one-off person who's working out of their house or they're doing it as a side gig. They don't have the relationships with folks like you. So we can incorporate and go well beyond that 55 million by bringing in those partner pages. But it just depends upon the budget and the size, and then each of our pages are different size.
Right. Yep. And the last one is why Doing Things Media? What's your competitive advantage? Why you guys versus anybody else?
Yeah, I would say one of them is that we're like all of our brands are built by. Well, I would say, yeah, obviously all of our brands are built by creators of the accounts, but then, whether we've acquired a brand or started a brand, the person that's running it totally gets it and has built channels with millions of followers. So it's, we get it completely in terms of the creative and know how to speak to an entire generation. Todd, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, no, totally. I mean, listen, we're invited into 55 million feeds. Scott, you said this is how you communicate with people, right?
It's true. Yep, I did say that. Yep.
Well, it's because of Scott. But I mean, this is how people are communicating today. And what I would boil it down to is when we get off of this call, right? Like we're all going to go back to work. Everyone's going to check their emails, their texts, their Slack. But the first spare minute that you get for yourself, you're going to go to one of your social channels. When you go to Instagram, and let's talk about, in the 18 to 34-year-old demo, you're probably going to Instagram, first or up there quickly. You're going through that feed for that immediate break. Again, you have your friends in there. You've asked for some influencers from some celebrities. You have asked people that want memes in there. And when you go into your DMs, right, which is how people communicate with each other today, it is memes in there. And we are the biggest ones in this space. And it's the people who are creating this content that create these programs for advertisers. And in this world where people are trying to do everything they can to avoid advertising, and we're all trying to make sure that the right eyeballs are seeing the right things, we are getting people to not only see it, but to share it, to like it, and engage in it, and laugh about our products out there, and then move on it. And I think this is it's meme marketing is it is a new thing, and it has not taken full hold yet, but it is there. I mean, it's just so ready. That's why I jumped into this. It's there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so to kind of round out our conversations here, I guess what meme should we be on the lookout for here? Reid, are you seeing anything in the space that is up and coming that it's like, we should invest in this one?
There's been a drought recently. I don't know why, in the last week. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. There's tons of meme formats that are popping up every day, but I haven't seen one recently that's the next big meme.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've got a fun question from chat to kind of end it on. Shawnzy wants to know, what's a job interview look like for a meme creator?
What's that? You broke up.
What does a job interview look like for a meme creator?
Basically, it's like, hey, send me something funny that you've made. That's basically it.
That's it. So, are people designing these things in Photoshop? Is it in MS Paint? Like what is the preferred canvas in which the Doing Thing Media team works?
Yeah, it depends on what meme it is. If you're just if it's just a format where it's Big Ed from 90 Day Fiance or whatever, that was a meme for a while. Then you're slapping a joke on top of that with a reaction. So that's just Twitter. But if it's you're creating the actual image and the picture that you're going to meme, then it's Over is an app you can use. It's called Over. That one's pretty good. InShot's okay. And then video stuff. Just we're using. I'll have to ask Tyler what he uses. I think it's some video editing software. But
okay. So a lot of it is done on mobile. It's not done high-end production studio or on Adobe Photoshop Suite. It's all kind of done on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Good to know. I mean, you guys are keeping it authentic, playing for the space that you're in. And we have a question for Todd here actually that just kind of came in at the end. It says, do most of your prospects at brands need an education on meme marketing or culture, or are many of them already familiar with it? So when you go to a brand, I guess, how much education is there on this type of content?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix. There are people who, spend a lot of time on Instagram. They get it, right? They understand memes, and many of them have seen meme marketing. But sometimes, there are people who are not as involved in the social channels, are not as familiar with it. Meme marketing is probably not officially yet a column on the spreadsheet. So it is, right? it's an area that's being established, right? Because it is social, it is branded content, it is organic, but it's a very simple transaction. It's impressions and a CPM. So it boils down to the basics. But yeah, it does take an education it's a brand new thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with that, we are just about out of time. So as always, guests, thanks for being here. Scott, thanks for joining us. And specifically, big shout out to Todd and Reid for being here and being our guests this week. Really appreciate the memication and look forward to when you guys are writing the textbooks in the future.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks everyone.